G'day, Michael here. Far from having the last print head, I'm still well in the thick of modifying this printer. What I had with these very large prints that I'm doing, I need to run the whole print enclosure very warm so as to anneal the print job, so as to minimize the shrinkage while it's printing. And also, by leaving the plastic in a semi-soft state, it doesn't have the tension in it to lift off the support bed. But the trouble I'm having with that is that the fan is, of course, using that hot air that's inside the print enclosure to attempt to cool the back end of the print head. Now, the back end of the print head, of course, needs to stay cooler than the melt temperature of the filament, otherwise it jams and buckles up. I'm printing in PLA at the moment because it's easier to keep in that annealed state, and so that's working quite well, except once the back end of the tip starts building up a temperature that can soften the PLA, it jams in the print head, and so I've got a 4-hour print job that jams halfway through. And so what I've come up with is an idea, I don't know whether it'll work, but here goes, of having the print head cooled by compressed air, but also having the exhaust air from the print head go back to the outside world. Now I'll turn this, well, where are we? Now I've just upgraded my VariCAD to a newer version and it's a little bit different to drive. I'll just change the viewing characteristics, what I want to do. Set perspective. Okay. So I've got the thing a little bit different to display, a bit more of a perspective on it. Okay, these two holes are just for the cable ties, a very close proximity, but I've got very little space to work with, to these two ports. Now these two ports represent where I'm going to be cutting in some, what is it, not quarter BSP, 1/8 BSP threads to fit some air fittings to it. Now I'm going to have a very small supply tube coming from either the compressor or perhaps even a little aquarium pump, and the other one's going to be a low pressure outlet, which is going to have like a 10mm silicon tube, silicon, so it's as flexible as I can get. Alright, so they're the two ports, one letting air in and one letting air out, of essentially a bore. Let me turn that over so you can see inside. Where are we? Okay, so you can see there's the cavity here. I'll just zoom in a tad. The cavity here going out to that bore, and the converse is true on the other side. So basically it's going to be creating a cross flow across the cooling elements of the print head. And the heated part of the print head, let me just get that down, the heated part of the print head will remain outside this assembly. Forgive my clunky manipulation here. Okay, so the actual hot tip will be out here, but this is the cool end going to be encased. Again, I've filleted all the small diameter holes. These were going to have a 3mm thread cut in them for all the bolts, and, you know, for the ball socket joints, etc. Anyhow, so this is a bit of an experiment. Let's see how it goes. If I can get this to work correctly, I should be able to make very, very large prints without any risk whatsoever of them having tension lift them away from the bed. It is very hard to keep them down when you're sort of in the order of 200mm both ways. There's a lot of tension that stacks up through the print as the filament cools as it's laid down. Anyhow, here's hoping that works. I might just bring Slicer onto this desktop so we can look through the stack. Okay, so here's the slicing stack. So that's how it's going to be printed. You can see I've actually got it quite hollow. Every, I don't know, every 10 or 11 layers I've got a solid just to keep everything tidy, but the rest of it's like a 30% fill. So I'll just work my way down through it. So you can see this has got a very thin wall on the outside edge here. Hopefully that's not going to give me any great trouble. It looks pretty thin to me. I might be asking too much out of everything, but I haven't got a lot of space, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm hopeful that'll work. I mean, it shouldn't break, it might just look a bit ugly. So it's still got the same conditions down the bottom where the ball sockets are mounted at this line. There's the holes for the threads, and I've also got this one hole for the screw, basically to clasp that the print head itself, you know, the assembly, cooling assembly, and a decent amount of brim to keep it nicely steady on the table, because it does extend out as it goes up. I'll just around there, as I go up through the layers, you can see it extends out from the base, so it's coming out quite a bit. So it's very prone to also, even on this fairly small part, which is circa 70 millimeters across on the wider spot, it actually builds up a little bit of tension too. Now I'm going to print this one out of ABS just as a mock-up. If it works well, if the concept works well, I'll do a polycarbonate print too. But the polycarbonate costs about twice what the ABS does, and just for testing, I'm not going to muck around. Actually, yeah. Well, I hope that's of interest to you. If this works, it might be a very groovy enhancement to your kossel printer. I might also have, if this design is, you know, if it works well, I might make this design available for download. We'll see how it goes. Anyhow, that's me signing off for today. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, ask a question. Yeah, well, bye for now.